All right, gang, Royd Free Senior back. Today I'm going to cover something that's a little more dear to my heart and something I can relate to. And it's, again, I'm being happily surprised going through some of my later 80s muscle and fitness. There's actually some pretty decent powerlifting and stuff like that, articles that I've been finding. For example, in the January 87 Muscle and Fitness, we have John Cook, who's one of the greatest powerlifters of all time, and a Pennsylvania guy. Him and Jim Williams, two of the best powerlifters ever, were from the Scranton area. Anywho, so John was a really good powerlifter, and he's quite candid about having done steroids. But then he decided to get off in the 80s and compete in the 80 FPA. So here's the story. And it's drug-free, what powerlifting with and without steroids is like by someone who's done it both ways, which I can relate to. John Cook, and it's got a picture of him, and it says, John Cook turned his back on steroids after an illustrious career as a record-breaking powerlifter. And guess what? He's still busting records after over 5 years of drug-free lifting. Says Cook, it can and will be done. So here he is. He starts out with, if you're a competitive powerlifter, you're weighing the pros and cons of training drug-free versus using steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs. Is there a difference in the way you train? You bet there is. What exactly is the difference? I'll be happy to tell you. I've been a powerlifter since 1969. I've used drugs and I've trained drug-free. I started as a 242-pounder and I placed third in the 71 Worlds at 271, then won the 72 Worlds as a 330-pound super heavy. I won both senior and world lifting titles in 74, 79, and 80. And for that year's World Championships, I lifted 2204 total at 242. I achieved all these marks while using anabolic steroids. I retired after the 80 World Championships, but I came back in 83, still at 242, to enter the American Drug-Free Powerlifting Association Nationals. I won my division that year and also in 84 and 85 when I lifted as a 275er. All these performances were achieved without drugs. I haven't used anabolics since the 80 World Championships, and when I was taking them, I had no idea what a mental and physical challenge it would be to train without them. My transition was difficult and frustrating, and there were times, especially at first, when I made no progress, when I even regressed. If you're going to train drug-free, there's one thing you should keep in mind at all times. Steroids work. People who use them train harder, handle heavier weights, recover quicker, and have a more positive, aggressive attitude about their lifting ability. There's no question that drugs make a difference. And once you know and accept this, it will be easier for you to train drug-free. When it comes to sets and reps are the basis of anyone's power training. How many sets and reps should a drug-free powerlifter do? Fewer than when he was taking steroids, and the reps he does do should be heavy. How heavy? Not necessarily 100 or 90 or even 80% of max, just as heavy as you can handle, given the time and situation of each workout. As a drug-free lifter, you'll have to pay particular attention to the number of sets and reps you do. You won't be able to perform many of them without overtraining. You'll have to get the greatest benefit out of the fewest sets and reps, and that means make them heavy. After 2 to 3 high-intensity workouts, you must let yourself recover by lightening your poundages, lowering the number of sets or reps, or all three. You must recover both physically and mentally, or you will make no future progress. How often should you train? Depends on you. Most powerlifters train the bench and squat twice a week each, and the deadlift once or twice. The squat and deadlift involve many of the same muscles. As we said, squat and deadlift involve many of the same muscles. So you'd recover quicker if you work each lift only once a week, but the squat requires more kinesthetic awareness than the deadlift or bench press. It's a more complex motion and your body needs to practice it. I'd recommend staying with 2 squat workouts, but making one of them extremely light. 1 heavy and 1 light workout a week will help your recovery time and yet will maintain the motor skills necessary for you to squat safely at optimum levels. Another tip, don't save your bench press day for the end of the week. The muscles aren't the same, but the intensity of your squat and deadlift training will affect your bench. Put off the bench workout to the end of the week, and you might find you haven't much left to put into it. Let's talk about problems. As a drug-free lifter, your biggest problems will be overtraining and discouragement. These sometimes occur in a sort of vicious circle. When your results aren't up to your expectations, you get discouraged, so you resolve to train even harder. You overtrain. Your results are worse. You get the picture. Throw in pressure from an upcoming contest, and you can easily lose your mental edge. You must continually remind yourself that there is a difference between you and the lifter who's using drugs. Your progress must be measured in different terms from his. You cannot use the fact of this difference as an excuse to take it easy, to slough off, to train soft, and so there's no pain. As a drug-free lifter, you must train both harder and smarter than others. The solution to this problem is to set yourself lower, more manageable goals. Give yourself more leeway on your training timetable. As a drug-free lifter, you cannot plot out every lift in every workout for 16 to 20 weeks in advance. Another problem is inconsistency. A hard training day happens for no particular reason. Your timetable is set back. You shorten your goals. You get depressed, discouraged. Don't. Remember, lifting drug-free is different. You can't take anything for granted, not sequential progress, and especially not recovery. I believe drug-free powerlift totals will get much closer to drug-assisted totals in time, but will never surpass them. A few drug-free lifters will actually better their own drug-assisted totals, but those occurrences will be rare. Drug-free powerlifters will spread their training goals and their lifting careers over longer periods of time. That's because real strength is developed over years of training. And the greatest obstacle to your attaining any lifting goals is impatience.